Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here. So today I have with me the Roland FP-30X and the Casio Privia PX-S3000. Now I just did a review of the FP-30X, which is the new model. The predecessor was the FP-30. And for $50 more in list price, the FP-30 was $700. The FP-30X is $750. For that $50, you get more than twice the keyboard. Just the Polyphony alone, $256 versus $128 on the predecessor, makes it worthwhile. But there's so much more to it. So I'm going to put the link in the description for that comprehensive review of the FP-30X. And I'm going to put a link in the description for the review of the Casio Privia PX-S3000. So you're going to want to watch both. And then when you're done watching both, come on back to this video and you're going to see the differences between the two. So let's start out with the price right away. The price on the Roland FP-30X, as I mentioned, is $750 US. On the Casio Privia PX-S series, there's two of them. There's one that's $100 less at $650. That's the PXS-1000. And there's this one, the PXS-3000, which is $850. Of the two, the PXS-3000, this one, is closer of a match than the PXS-1000. All right, so all that being said, you can hear sounds and all that kind of stuff in those other reviews, and there's plenty of reviews that compare the sounds of both. This one is more of a narrative, meaning I'm going to be talking more about the features rather than demoing the sounds. But for those of you that want to hear the sounds, here's the pianos that come up on each of these. Now, usually when a manufacturer puts in pianos, they will have the very first or default piano that comes up as their best one. So here it is on the Roland FP-30X. And here it is on the Casio Privia PX-S3000. And let's play a song that I wrote, switching back between the two so that we can hear some of the differences. That should give you some kind of an idea of what the differences in the piano are on both of these, but let's start talking about these now. The key action on each of these. With the Roland, they're using their PHA4 standard action, which is a really good action. There's actually 3 different actions to the PHA4. This is the standard. They also have the premium and the concert. And once you get out of the PHA4, the next step up is the PHA50, and that's really pro with wood key sticks and so on and so forth. But this is the PHA4 standard, and I highly recommend it. It has been around for a long time. It's established. It's a really good key action. On the Casio Privia, the Casio also makes their own key actions. And this is what they call their smart scaled hammer action. And it's really something because while the Roland has triple sensor action, this has smart scaled hammer action, and it's a dual or two sensor action. Now, let me explain the differences between those. When you have three sensors, this is the key as you press it down and as it passes by the three sensors. When you have three sensor action, basically if you want to replay a note, you have to lift it past the second or middle sensor before you can replay it. On a two sensor action, you have to lift it up past the first or topmost sensor before you can replay it. So the three sensor action is actually superior between two and three sensor actions because that sensor in the middle is lower, so you don't have to bring the key all the way up to replay it. But with Casio's smart scaled hammer action, that changes the whole game. Yes, it's only two, but the firmware, and this is patented, is constantly monitoring where you are between these two. You don't have to, as you do in a typical two sensor action, bring it up past that first sensor to be able to replay the key. Anywhere you are between these two, it knows where you are, so you can play it anywhere you're at. So in a sense, Casio's smart scaled hammer action is a little bit better than the triple sensor action. So there's a little bit of differences of opinion on those, but basically the Casio smart scaled hammer action is actually a new technology, and it has been working out really well. Now, the FP-30X has ivory feel, and the Casio PX-S3000 has what they call simulated ebony and ivory keys. And either one is really good because if you're at a gig where it's outdoors and it's really hot, you're not going to be able to play so well on a standard action. But because of the keys the way they are, simulated ebony and ivory or ivory feel, it's not going to slip when you play this outdoors in a hot temperature. Both of these are plastic actions. Now the sound engine on each. Roland has their Supernatural piano here, and it sounds real good. They have a new chip out, the BNC chip, which is much of an improvement over the previous FP30 model. And as far as the Casio, they have what they're calling Air and AIX combined together. Air is Acoustic Intelligent Resonator, and AIX is Acoustic Intelligent Expression. So between the two of those, and they've done a hybrid chip with those, it really is phenomenal. Now, as far as polyphony, the Roland has 256 note polyphony, unlike its predecessor, which was only half of that. And the Casio has 192 note polyphony. Both are very respectable, especially when you're talking about an entry-level piano on each of these. The Roland comes with 56 built-in sounds. The Casio has 700 built-in sounds. But the Roland takes it a step further because if you're going to use their app with this, the Piano Everyday app, that unlocks the general MIDI 2 sound set in here. There's 256 different sounds in the general MIDI 2 sound set. That plus the 56 that are in here gives you more than 300 sounds. Now, most people that are buying this are buying these strictly for piano, and all the other sounds in there are gravy. And if you're buying it for more, like organs and electric pianos, that kind of stuff, either one will get you by. All the other hundreds of sounds are basically gravy. Now, as far as pedals, both of them come with a cheap plastic, basically on-off switch. With Roland, it's their DP2, and with Casio, it's the SP3. Those are the model numbers for these cheap on-off switches. These will definitely get you by, and I highly recommend that you carry these at all times when you're with this instrument doing a gig, because the more professional pedals, yes, like anything else, they can and do break. And when that happens, unless you have a backup, you're going to be stuck with no pedal. And I've had that happen to me numerous times. So I can't highly recommend enough that you carry an extra pedal with you. Now, as far as those extra pedals, Roland has the optional DP10 pedal. And let me show you that. That's this pedal right here, and it does half damping. It's more of a professional looking and feeling pedal. But it also has this rubber thing that comes out where your foot rests on this part and you play the piano here. So the combination of your foot here and playing the pedal here, this keeps the pedal from rolling or sliding all over the floor during a gig. And if you've ever played a gig with a pedal, you know what I'm talking about. That's so irritating. Roland seems to have a solution for that. Casio also has a optional pedal. This is the SP-34. This is a triple pedal, and yeah, you have half damping here, and you have the other two regular piano functions that a piano pedal would have. These can also be programmed to advance pages or go through certain things, advancing and going to the next page and back with this. And unlike the Roland, this is $99. You don't need anything else. Now, Roland also has a triple pedal. It's optional, but it's not like this. With this, you can just buy the pedal and use it, set it on the floor, you're all set. With Roland, you have to have the optional furniture style stand with it, and that will hook up onto that stand and enable you to use that triple pedal. Unlike Casio, there is no standalone version of a triple pedal. And as far as the cabinets go, the Roland comes in your choice of black or white. As far as the Casio, you get your choice of any color you want as long as it's black. It only comes in black, and it's a high luster black. And speaking of the finishes on these, well, the Casio is a high luster black, which is really super nice. The Roland is more of a matte black finish. Now, there's a difference in how you choose things with each of these. With the Roland, you have all these switches over here, these buttons. And if you want to choose something, since there's no LCD screen or any kind of display screen, you're basically going to hold down a switch and press something, one of the keys over here. And a lot of the keys are labeled here on the fall board. You have what these key functions are. You basically hold down one of the buttons and press a key, and that's how you get to different aspects of here. That's also how you change sounds and how you set all kinds of other things. With the PX-S3000 from Casio, they do have a display screen, and instead of physical buttons, they have what's called capacitive touch. So basically, you barely have to touch anything, and that's going to change things. Now, the disadvantage of that is there's no audible feedback. Whereas with the Roland, you press a button, you're going to know it. With here, you have to look at the screen to confirm that whatever you pressed has been pressed. And while both the Roland with its physical buttons and the Casio with its capacitive touch buttons, the Roland doesn't have any other buttons or anything else like that other than those buttons that are on the front panel here. With the Casio, you also have a volume knob. It's the biggest knob that's on here. And off to the side, you have a pitch bend wheel, and you have two other knobs here that are assignable. And these can be used for a lot of different things. So the Casio beats the Roland when it comes to a pitch bend wheel, and assignable knobs. For example, with Reverb, I can choose one of the settings where with the assignable knobs, one of them is for reverb, and I can basically twiddle that knob and get the reverb setting I want. I can go deeper than that, but just for simplicity's sake, I can go ahead and just use the knob and set my reverb from there. As for the Roland, yeah, I can do that too, but I'm going to have to hold down a button and use a key combination to get the settings that I want. Now, as far as recordings, they will both record, and with Roland, it's a one-touch record button, which is really nice. You don't have to think about anything. You just start recording. So basically, it'll record in standard MIDI format 0. And as far as the Casio, also easy to record with. You can record up to 3 tracks and 5 songs with the Casio, where it's just 1 with the Roland. You also have punch-in recording with the Casio. Now with the Roland, you can record up to 70,000 notes, which I really doubt you're going to reach that kind of limit. And with the Casio, that's only 30,000 notes. And again, I kind of doubt you're going to reach that limit. The interesting thing comes with speakers. On the Roland, the speakers are 12 centimeters by 2 centimeters, which is basically 4.72 inches by 0.78 inches. They're 11 watts per side for a total of 22 watts. With the Casio, the speakers are 16 by 8 centimeters oval, which is basically 6.3 by 3.15 inches. And it's 8 watts per side for a total of 16 watts. So you've got 22 watts total on the Roland, 16 watts total on the Casio. Now, it's a little bit more involved than that because on the Roland, the speakers are facing down. Now, I have this on a keyboard stand, and like just about every keyboard stand out there, it's open to the floor. It's basically 2 arms, and you have the keyboard across those 2 arms, and the speakers are facing the floor. With the Casio, the speakers are facing the audience, so right away you have a little bit different in sound. Now, the Roland also has kind of an EQ switch here to tell it whether you have it on a stand or on a desk. And you're going to set the EQ switch setting for desk so that you have the right EQ for that. Otherwise, you're going to set it for stand like I have right now. And that's probably going to be the use for most people out there, especially if you're gigging. You're going to have it on a stand. With the Casio, since the speakers are facing outward, there really isn't much you need to do with that. But they do have a couple of little ports here where you can hear what's coming in through, coming up above. And they do have another setting there for what they're calling surround sound. And the microphones that anybody has in a studio isn't going to pick that up. You really have to hear that in person because it is really something. It is phenomenal what this actually sounds like when you have that in that surround setting. Now for other settings, the Roland has 30 internal songs, so you can play back up to 30 popular songs so that it'll help you learn those songs. And as far as the Casio, its big thing is you have 200 built-in rhythms that you can play along with that will accompany you. Very, very cool. And as far as connectivity, the Roland has separate left and right 1/4 inch line outputs now, as opposed to just a single solitary headphone jack in the previous model, the FP-30. So that's really cool. As far as headphone jacks, you have both headphone jacks in the front, and it's one of each 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch. So no matter what kind of headphones you have, you can use it with this. It also has on the Roland Bluetooth audio, and that's receive only. So if you have an MP3 player or something else, you want to broadcast it to the Roland, you can play it back through the Roland's built-in amp and speakers. Do not go out running to get yourself a pair of Bluetooth headphones because it won't work that way. It's only receive, not send. It also has Bluetooth MIDI, which is really, really super cool. I love that feature. The Casio does not have that. Also has USB A and B. Now, as far as the Casio, you have, just like the Roland, separate left and right 1/4-inch line outs. You have Bluetooth audio, just like the Roland. Receive, not send. Don't go ahead, buy yourself a pair of Bluetooth headphones. So with either of these, if you have a Bluetooth source, a MP3 player, or whatever else, you can broadcast it to either one of these and play it through its built-in amplifier and speakers. No Bluetooth MIDI on the Casio, and like the Roland, you have USB A and B. Now, as far as apps, Roland has 2 apps. They have the Piano Everyday app, which is what you would probably be using it with every day. You can choose sounds and all kinds of stuff. Look at my review of this for more information on that. The other app they have is the Piano Designer app, where you can fine-tune your entire keyboard with that app. You can fine-tune each and every single individual key as far as volume and character and tuning and everything else. Casio has this Cordana Play for Piano app, which is also really cool. You can choose all the different sounds, and you're going to want to use that app to choose from the 700 different sounds. It makes it so much easier to choose from than going through the keyboard. But they also have this really cool feature where you're playing any kind of MIDI file and you can see the notes falling onto the different keys. It's a really unique way of learning how to play something. And the Roland doesn't have that, but you can use the Casio to learn that way, regardless of any kind of keyboard that you're using. As far as colors, the Roland comes in your choice of black or white, and the Casio comes in choice of any color you want as long as it's black. In terms of the surface or front panel of each of these, like I mentioned before with the Roland, it's a button key combination to change sounds or to get to any other parameters. And again, check the links in the description so that you can watch the full comprehensive review on the Roland so that you'll know what I'm talking about. You'll be an expert at it after watching that video. Now, it does not have a pitch bend or a modulation wheel, whereas the Casio does. There is no programmable or assignable knobs of any kind on the Roland. And as far as volume control, as opposed to the Casio where you have this big, huge volume knob, with the Roland, it is a pair of switches to decrease or increase the volume. And as far as the PX-S3000, I've pretty much already covered the front panel, but there's also an LCD screen, which helps a lot because you can really get into some heavy-duty effects editing with this. And that's where this screen comes in handy. You can dig as deep as you want with effects editing, DSP editing, and so on and so forth. And like I mentioned, the 2 assignable knobs and the volume control. So that basically covers it from a pianist perspective between the 2 different keyboards here. This has been a narrative, and I highly recommend that you watch the more comprehensive overview/reviews of each one of these. And I'm going to put the links in the description, and you're going to learn a lot more of both of these. You'll become an expert on each. So I hope this has been helpful. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.